Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Well, I don't know about you, but I love to work on big projects. I love to work on big things. You get such a sense of pride and accomplishment when you finish them. But I don't know about you, I have two issues with it. The first one, I start off really well motivated. I'm eager, I'm keen. I dive on in and I start work on it. And yes, I get the bulk of it done really quickly, but that just triggers really the 80-20 rule. That's where 80% of the work is done in 20% of the time. But the remaining 20% of the work, it takes 80% of the time. And I quickly get demoralized when I hit this because I've done all the interesting stuff. I've done all the shiny stuff that I can really see. And now I'm just doing those little tweaks, those little changes. It just gets me down. The other issue I've got is some of my projects, when you write them down, it sounds really easy. An example here, write a novel. Sounds really simple, doesn't it, when you're writing it down? But when you come to actually start working on it, you realise how big, how difficult and how hard it is. And then, I don't know about you, when that happens, I go into panic mode, I freeze, I end up doing nothing. The way to counteract this is what I call working on small things. Small things make a big difference. You know, there's that old saying, look after your pennies and the pounds will take care of themselves. The first thing I do with any project now, doesn't matter what it is I do not jump straight in. What I do is I spend a short amount of time, it may only be a few minutes. If it's a really big project, it could be a day or so. But I look at the project, I understand what the project is going to be about, and then I break it down into a series of smaller steps. The idea being, each step, you've got an end point. You might have a deadline. You might have a certain amount of functionality. You might have it to a certain stage of development. Spend a few minutes, come up with that plan, come up with those smaller steps. And then all you're going to do is work on smaller steps. And them smaller steps, they then add up and deliver the big project. One of the good things about breaking down that project, if you've got a team, if you've got people you can delegate to, breaking it down lets you think about it and actually farm out that work to other people. So you're not doing it yourself, you're getting others to help with the project. Isn't that a productivity booster already? The other benefit of breaking it down into these smaller steps, each step with it having a completion point, you can make that completion point a reward point. We'll touch on that a little bit more detail in a few minutes, but the idea is you reward yourself for completing a step. As I said earlier on, an example, write a book. Yes, it's nice and simple, it's 3 little words, but when you come round to doing it, when you sit down to start on the project, it's so hard because 3 little words, how does that change? How does that transform into a book? As I said, we break it down. Rather than trying to tackle the big project, what we do is we split it, work on small steps, achieve that big project. So with writing the book, we may come up with some steps such as create a broad outline for the book. That's easy. Well, I'm saying it's easy. Obviously it isn't. If not, everyone would be writing them. But all it is saying, I'm going to create an outline. That's my plot. Not worrying about chapters, not worrying about character details, just what's going to happen, how it's going to happen. Once you've done that, you then look at that outline and you start to flesh out the details. By fleshing out the details, what you may do is end up coming up with characters. So you may have a separate step to develop the characters. You come up with a series of chapters. You'll have a separate step to talk about each of the chapters. You've now got an outline and a detailed outline. From that detailed outline, you can then say the next step is to work on the characters. And you break that character step down into a series of other smaller steps, which could be 1 step per character. Do you see where I'm going? I'm taking big things and I'm using my time. I'm thinking about it and I'm splitting it down into some really small steps that are really easy to achieve. This way you can achieve something that is very hard, and you do it by completing things that are very simple. You're taking a big scary project, breaking it down, and coming up with something that is so easy for you to do. I mentioned rewards. I think rewards are really important. These are ways of helping you to celebrate the success, celebrate completing a step, and also boost your own motivation. Now, this reward doesn't have to be big. It could be you're going to go for a walk. Could be a bar of chocolate, bottle of wine, bottle of spirits, night out, weekend away. Doesn't really matter. Now, obviously, you don't want to be doing big rewards for small steps. So you need to think about it. If you do a small step, give yourself that bar of chocolate, that small reward. If you've completed a major milestone, say software development, which is my background, if you've got your application ready to go live, that's where you may think, I'm going to go and have a weekend away. Reward yourself. And yes, I know you're rewarding yourself, but it still makes a difference. If you've got a team, this is even more important because what you're doing is you're going to reward the team. This is a little bit harder because you need to get to know the person. You need to know what kind of rewards they would appreciate. If you're giving someone a reward which you think is nice and has absolutely no meaning to them, you're not rewarding them. You could end up demotivating them. So think about the reward, think about the person, and try and match it closely. An example here, I said earlier on about a bottle of wine. If you've got someone who's teetotal, pointless giving them a bottle of wine, isn't it? If you've got someone who's diabetic, do you want to give them chocolate or can you get some diabetic chocolate? Just think about it. So in summary, work towards the big things. Really good. That's what we should all be doing. But work towards the big things by working on small things. Smaller steps that you've planned, that you've thought about, will move you towards your goal, keep you motivated, and enable you to grow your productivity. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. What do you think about the small steps? Are there some projects that you've used this method on already? Can you drop some details down below? Let's kickstart the conversation. Please hit the thumbs up button every time you like, every time you comment. Just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.